What would you do if your entire family, your mother, your sister, your cousins, ignored your birthday, pretending it never happened, while smiling through someone else's celebration weeks later? Can you imagine setting the table for your birthday dinner, candles lit, wine poured, and the only sound is silence from the people who were supposed to care most? My name is Alicia, and I learned the hard way that sometimes family only values you when you stay small and silent. But this birthday was the beginning of something else, something stronger. Stick around because you're about to see how one forgotten birthday sparked a quiet revolution in my life. I've been looking forward to this night for weeks. My 36th birthday, just a small dinner, nothing flashy. I didn't need fireworks or a crowded rooftop party, just warmth, family, maybe a few heartfelt messages, even if they were in the group chat. Matt, my husband, had insisted on making the evening special. He'd picked up my favorite wine from that little shop on Prince Street, the one that always had the handwritten tasting notes. The dining table was set with clean white plates and those tall brass candlesticks we only used once a year. I even wore the blue wrap dress he once said made me look like a memory from Paris. The lights were dimmed, the jazz playlist humming softly, and my phone sat on the table face down. But I'd been checking it all day. Nothing. Not a single ping. No message from Mom. No emoji from my sister Heather, who normally posted every sneeze on her Instagram story. No call from my cousins, who usually never missed a chance to turn any celebration into an excuse for sangria and selfies. It was almost 9:00. I finally gave up pretending I wasn't bothered and flipped my phone over. Still nothing. The family group chat, where they usually flooded with happy birthday gifts, even for my aunt's dog, was dead silent, like I didn't exist today. Matt poured the wine gently, watching me. Maybe they're just running late with messages. I forced a smile. Or maybe they just forgot. He sat beside me, quiet for a beat too long. That's not like them, especially Heather. Exactly, I said, my voice catching more than I expected. She throws a party for her own cat's adoption anniversary. We clinked glasses. The wine was smooth, dark, comforting, but it didn't cut through the ache pressing at my ribs. I kept glancing at the group chat, hoping for a sudden burst of belated love. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they'd show up with cake, laughing and blaming traffic. I kept picturing it. But the night wore on, and all that showed up was the sound of the radiator clicking in the corner. Matt tried to distract me. He told a story about his coworker mistaking a stranger's Tesla for an Uber. I laughed, but it didn't reach my eyes. At one point, I excused myself to the bathroom and just stared at my reflection. I looked good. I had dressed for the love I thought was coming. And maybe that's what hurt most. This wasn't just about a missed birthday. It was about how invisible I'd slowly become to the people I used to bend over backward for. Every birthday I remembered. Every gift I gave. Every call I made after long shifts just to say, I'm thinking of you. And today, I wasn't even worth a text. As we cleared the table, I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that birthdays lose their sparkle with age. But deep down, a little voice whispered something different. If they could forget today, what else had they already decided I didn't deserve? That night, I didn't cry. I just sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the familiar sting of a truth I'd been too polite to admit for years. In my family, love wasn't about showing up. It was about showing off. And I was done clapping from the sidelines. The next morning, I woke up early. My eyes felt grainy, like they'd cried in my sleep, though I hadn't, not really. Just that aching silence again, a thud in the chest that lingered. Matt had already left for a morning meeting, leaving a sticky note on the mirror. Still your day, always. Underneath, a little drawing of a cupcake with a candle. I stood at the kitchen counter staring at my coffee, and for reasons I can't fully explain, I opened the family group chat again. Still nothing. No messages. No sorry we missed it. No memes. No digital confetti. It was like my birthday had been erased entirely. I took a slow breath and did something I wasn't even sure I'd regret. I typed out a short message, calm and kind, because I was still trying to give them grace. Hey guys, just wondering if everything's okay. We had a little birthday dinner last night and missed hearing from you. Hope all is well. I sent it to the group and waited, phone in hand, mug pressed to my palm. The first reply came from my cousin Riley. OMG, was it last night? I thought it was next week. So sorry, babe. Happy belated. Heather replied next. Alish, I totally spaced. I've been running on empty lately. Work is nuts and well, it's just been chaos. Hope you had fun though. No emojis. No happy birthday. No effort. Then came my mom. I meant to call, sweetheart. Something came up with your aunt's surgery and everything got turned around. You know how it is. Hope it was still special. Love you. That was it. No apology, no mention of a reschedule, no plan to make it up. Just something came up. I stared at the screen, reading and rereading, like maybe hidden between the words was a real reason, one that made this feel less cruel, but there wasn't. I typed and deleted a dozen responses. You knew. You all knew. I reminded you in the group chat 2 weeks ago. Even Heather reacted to the message with a thumbs up. So no, you didn't forget. You chose not to remember. But I didn't send any of those. Instead, I replied with, "Got it. Hope everything's okay." That was all. I walked to the sink and turned on the water, letting it run until steam rose like smoke. Maybe if I stared into it long enough, the hurt would disappear. A birthday isn't just a date. It's a marker. A check-in on who's still choosing to see you. And this year, no one had. It wasn't about cake. It wasn't even about the messages anymore. It was about the fact that for them, my birthday was optional. Like attending a rehearsal dinner for a distant coworker, they could take it or leave it. And they left it. They left me. All morning, I thought about whether I should call my mom. Just call and say how I really felt. But something in me hesitated. I knew that tone she'd use. The one that said I'm too busy for your feelings. The one that made me feel 10 inches tall and silly for ever bringing it up. Instead, I sent one more message, this time privately to Heather. Just being honest, it really hurt that no one reached out. I know people are busy, but I felt invisible last night. That's hard to ignore. She read it. I saw the scene 11:03 a.m. bubble. No reply. An hour later, she posted a photo on Instagram. A smoothie, 2 yoga mats, and the caption, "Self-care with my soul twin grateful," tagged her friend Marley. Of course. I shut my phone off. I'd never said it out loud, but I always suspected I was the reliable one. The one you call when your car breaks down or your kid needs a last-minute pickup. But never the one you celebrate unless it's convenient. Somewhere along the way, I became support staff in my own family. Always on call. Rarely invited. And yesterday made that truth unbearable. When Matt got home that night, I didn't say much at first. I just handed him my phone and let him scroll through the excuses. I watched his jaw tighten with each one. "I'm sorry, love," he said, wrapping his arms around me. "You did nothing wrong. They did. And next time we celebrate like royalty, even if it's just us." He meant it. That much I knew. Still, as I lay in bed that night, I stared at the ceiling again, replaying every quiet moment from the day before. The empty messages. The empty chairs. I had always believed that love looked like showing up. But now I was beginning to wonder if I'd spent my whole life being loyal to people who were only loyal to their own convenience. And that question would haunt me longer than their silence ever could. Matt found me on the couch that Sunday morning, still in my robe, nursing the same cup of lukewarm coffee I'd reheated twice. The soft hum of the city outside barely registered. In my chest, everything felt gray. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just slid onto the couch beside me and sat quietly, waiting. That's always been one of the things I love about him. His silence doesn't demand. It offers. "I know it's dumb to be this upset over a birthday," I finally said, my voice low, fingers curling around the mug. Matt shook his head. "It's not dumb." I stared at the coffee table, the wax from one of last night's candles still hardened in a shallow puddle on the glass. "It's just, I always show up for them, always. You do. And it's not like I expected a parade or anything," I said, a bitter laugh escaping. "But a call. A happy birthday text that takes 5 seconds to send. I guess I thought I mattered enough for that." He reached for my hand. "You do, just maybe not to people who should have always seen it." That sentence stopped me cold. Because it was true. I'd spent years excusing their forgetfulness, justifying their silence with words like busy, distracted, stressed. I defended my mom's clipped responses with "she's tired. She has a lot going on." I let Heather slide year after year, even when she forgot my bridal shower because she's flaky but not mean. But what if they were exactly as careless as they appeared, and I'd just gotten very good at forgiving what hurt? "I texted Heather," I whispered. "Told her it hurt." Matt's eyebrows lifted. "Yeah, she left me on read." He didn't say anything for a second, just tightened his grip on my fingers. Then carefully, "That's not okay." "I keep asking myself what I did wrong," I admitted, tears prickling now. "Like, did I annoy them? Was I too much? Did I expect too much?" Matt turned to me, face earnest. "You didn't do anything wrong, Lish. You expected to be remembered. That's not too much. That's basic love." I nodded slowly. My throat was thick with the ache of being seen, finally, fully. "You want to know what I think?" he asked. "Always. I think you've spent your whole life giving them the benefit of the doubt. You've carried the weight of their inconsistencies and told yourself it was your job to understand them. But when have they tried to understand you?" I had no answer, because he was right. Matt reached over and pulled a small, folded napkin from his coat pocket. "This is what you missed while you were in your head last night," he said, offering it to me with a wry smile. I opened it. In his slanted handwriting was a list. "Bring flowers, light candles early, make that eggplant thing she likes, don't let her check her phone, remind her that she matters, hold her. Until the ache softens." I bit my lip, holding back tears. "I didn't get all of them right," he said, "but I tried." "No," I said, clutching the napkin. "You did. You saw me when no one else did." He leaned in, his voice low and sure. "You don't need their noise to validate you. You are worth celebrating whether or not they remember. But if you want, next year we'll rent out the rooftop at the Crosby, wear ridiculous hats, and toast to you until the stars shut their eyes." I laughed softly, heart easing just enough to breathe deeper. "Next year," I whispered. "Yeah." But still, this wasn't just about a birthday. Something deeper had cracked. A mirror, maybe. One that had once reflected the illusion that my family loved me just as much as I loved them. And now, all I saw was what I'd ignored for too long. They liked me quiet. They liked me useful. But they didn't know how to love me when I needed instead of gave. Matt didn't try to fix it. He just held me through the silence. And somewhere between the weight of that quiet and the warmth of his arms, I realized something. This wasn't a sadness I needed to bury. It was one I needed to listen to. Because beneath the heartbreak was a seed. Not of revenge, not of bitterness, but of resolve. I didn't want to be invisible anymore. Not in my own story. Not in my own family. And while I didn't know it yet, the moment that would show them exactly who I'd become was already on the horizon. 3 weeks passed. Just long enough for the silence between my family and me to feel familiar. No one followed up. No late birthday card. No apology call. Heather still hadn't responded to my message. Even Mom didn't circle back, not even with her usual vague, "I've just been swamped lately." It was like I'd been ghosted by blood. But oddly, the absence brought clarity. I stopped checking the group chat. I didn't replay the dinner or scroll through Heather's social feed hoping to see something, anything, acknowledging what they'd done. I let go. At least I thought I had. Until the message came. It was a Friday, late afternoon. I was standing at the sink rinsing vegetables, listening to Leon Bridges and trying to pretend I wasn't still bruised underneath the calm I wore. My phone buzzed once, then twice. "Mom." "Hi, honey. Quick thing. We're organizing a special gift for Heather's birthday next month. Custom designer bag she's been dreaming about. We want it to be a surprise from all of us. Total is $5,000, we're splitting it. Your part comes to $3,000. I read the message 3 times, jaw slack. Then I laughed, out loud. A small, stunned sound that came out more like a breathless, "Are you kidding me?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. She hadn't called me once since my birthday, not even a follow-up text. Heather had left me on read. And now, suddenly, I was good enough to chip in for her luxury gift. $3,000 for a woman who couldn't be bothered to send me a "hope your day was nice." I put the knife down and walked out to the balcony, needing air that didn't feel so dense. I stared at the skyline and felt something rise in me. Not sadness, not disappointment, disgust. This wasn't just forgetfulness anymore. This was gall. I walked back inside and opened the message again. I typed one word. No. But that didn't feel like enough, so I deleted it. Then I typed more. "I find it unbelievable that after ignoring my birthday entirely, you would ask me to contribute $3,000 for Heather's, especially when no one even acknowledged mine. Not a call, not a card, not even a lazy text." I stared at it. Too sharp. No, honest. I hit send. The response came within minutes. "Mom, oh Alicia, don't make this about you. Heather's turning 35, it's a big year. She's always been the heart of the family. We want to do something meaningful for her. I just thought you'd want to be part of it." The heart of the family, that phrase, it hung in the air like poison, as if I were the leftover organ. The appendix. They're but not essential. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. Instead, I paced the kitchen, my feet moving the way my thoughts did, sharp, circular, nowhere to land. I sat at the dining table, the same one Matt and I had set weeks ago for a dinner my family chose to ignore, and I breathed, deeply, until my voice came back. Then I typed, "You thought wrong." I didn't explain. I didn't soften the edge. I pressed send and let it sit in her inbox like the weight it deserved to be. No reply. Matt came home that evening with a small bouquet of sunflowers. He said they looked like me, bold and bright even when the sky turned dark. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. $3,000 for someone who didn't even wish you a happy birthday. That's not a gift, Lish. That's them testing how far they can still pull you in. I know, I said. And the worst part, if they had even said sorry even once, I probably would have done it. He touched my chin. That's what makes you beautiful, and also what makes them think they can keep doing this. I looked down at the table. I think I needed this, I said, almost to myself. To finally understand how much they don't see me, I needed to say no. He nodded. You did, and you will again if you have to. And I knew then that this wasn't just a boundary. It was a beginning, because love doesn't come with an invoice, and birthdays aren't barter chips. And I was done financing the myth that I mattered to people who only remembered me when it was convenient or when they needed money. It started small. Passive-aggressive comment in the group chat from my Aunt Linda, someone who hadn't messaged me directly in months. Some of us still know how to be generous when it counts. No context. No name, just poison disguised as principle. I didn't respond. Then came the double hearts under Heather's Instagram photo of the purse. Yes, the purse, now posted with dramatic flair. Couldn't ask for a more thoughtful family. Blessed beyond words. True love, the caption might as well have read. Some people show up. Some people don't, my mother commented, of course. You deserve it, sweetheart, always have. No one tagged me. No one needed to, the message was clear. I was the problem now. The cold one. The selfish sister who couldn't even celebrate someone else's joy. By Monday, my cousin Sasha sent me a just checking in text, pretending not to know anything. Hey girl, everything okay? There's a lot of weird tension in the chat lately. Hope you're not taking anything personally. I stared at her message, took a sip of water, then typed, Thanks for checking in. I'm fine, just setting some overdue boundaries. She never replied. Within days, the group chat that had once been full of brunch invites and random memes turned into a theater of guilt-laced performances. Photos from Heather's party planning committee, complete with champagne and captioned, Real family energy, memes about people who give without needing attention back. Even one from my own mother. You raise them to be kind and someone still ends up being the difficult one. C'est la vie. That one nearly made me drop my phone. Difficult one. That's what I was now. After years of babysitting their kids last minute, loaning money without asking for it back, remembering every birthday, anniversary, surgery date, job interview, I was the difficult one. I told Matt. He didn't say, I told you so. He just held out his arms, and I crawled in like a child who didn't want to cry in public but needed somewhere to fall. I don't want to lose my family, I murmured. You're not losing them, he said. They're just showing you who they really are when they don't get what they want. I clung to him like a lifeline. But later that night, I lay in bed with my eyes wide open, watching shadows slide across the ceiling, and a thought I'd never dared entertain crept in. What if they never actually loved me? What if I'd just been useful, the reliable one, the one who never said no, the one who could be counted on to sweep up the messes, show up with flowers, send the card, ask about their kids' dance recitals, and clap, always clap from the sidelines. And now that I wasn't playing my part, they didn't want me on stage anymore. I went through old messages, birthday chats, photos. I found one from Heather's last birthday, me holding a tray of cupcakes I'd baked from scratch because she was doing no store-bought sugar that year. I remembered driving 40 minutes to pick up that organic flour she liked. No one thanked me. I scrolled down further. One text from Mom after my college graduation. Heather's struggling with the job hunt, don't post too much, be kind. Even then, even during my own milestone, I'd been asked to dim myself. It had always been this way. And now that I'd said no once, they were rewriting the story. Suddenly, I was the one with an attitude. I was the one who made everything about herself. I was the one who changed, but I hadn't changed. I had just stopped bending, and they didn't like that. By Thursday, the group chat had turned into a subtle tribunal. My name wasn't mentioned, but the topics were all too pointed. Entitlement disguised as boundaries. People who hold grudges are exhausting. Some folks only give when it makes them look good. Every message tightened the knot in my stomach. I told myself I didn't care, but that wasn't true. I cared. Because no matter how old we get, a part of us still wants to be loved by the people we grew up believing we belonged to. But the more I saw their jabs, the more I realized they didn't want me to belong. They wanted me to behave. I stopped replying to the group chat, stopped opening it altogether. I muted the thread, archived the texts. I couldn't stomach one more backhanded meme or thinly veiled quote about toxic energy. I didn't block them, but I let the digital silence stretch. And in real life, I let it seep into me too. I stopped reaching out, stopped checking in, stopped showing up. And for the first time in my life, I let them wonder. It wasn't a dramatic exit. I didn't rage or post cryptic messages online. I didn't call anyone to defend myself. I just went quiet. But inside, something was very loud, a deep thrum of hurt that had nowhere to go. It sat in my chest like a heavy drumbeat, steady, relentless, muffled under every smile I forced in front of coworkers or every cheerful "I'm good" I gave when someone asked. Matt watched it all quietly, the way only someone who knows your soul does. He never pushed, just observed. And then one night I broke. We were sitting on the couch after dinner. He was rubbing my feet the way he always did when he knew I didn't want to talk but needed to feel loved. I stared at the TV, barely watching the cooking show playing on mute. Finally, I whispered, "Maybe I am the problem." He froze. I hated how small my voice sounded. But once I said it, everything else poured out like a cracked pipe. "Maybe I've always been too sensitive," I said. "Maybe I do make things about me. Maybe I expect too much. It's not like they're evil, Matt. They're just them. Maybe I've overreacted." He said nothing. And if they're all saying the same thing, maybe they're right. Matt slowly moved until he was sitting next to me, shoulder to shoulder. He turned off the TV. "Alicia," he said softly, "I need you to hear something." I nodded. "You are not the problem, you're the mirror, and mirrors make people uncomfortable when they're not ready to look at themselves." That sentence undid me, just undid me. I covered my face with my hands and sobbed, not a graceful cry. It was ugly and heaving and years in the making. "They make me feel like I'm crazy," I choked out. "Like remembering my own birthday is selfish, like asking for respect is dramatic, like not giving $3,000 makes me some kind of monster, and all I wanted was to be thought of." "I know," he said. "I know, baby." He pulled me into him, let my tears soak through his shirt. We sat like that until my breathing slowed. And then he said the thing that made me sit up straighter. "Listen," he said. "Heather's birthday party is in 2 weeks, right?" I blinked. "Yeah, some big dinner thing. She's calling it a celebration of gratitude." He gave a dry laugh. "Of course she is." Then he looked me in the eye. "What if we turned it into something else?" "What do you mean?" "A turning point," he said. "They want you quiet, small, predictable. What if you walked in and reminded them who you are?" I stared at him. "You want me to go?" "I want you to show up, but not for them, for you." I hesitated. The idea of walking into that room, the tension, the eyes, the pretending made my stomach twist. "I don't know, Matt. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. Not if you go in on your terms, not if we plan it right." He leaned in closer, his voice low and steady. "You've spent your whole life managing their comfort. You've played the role. You've smiled through cuts. You've let them rewrite your story. Maybe it's time they met the real version." I swallowed. "What would that even look like?" Matt smiled. "Let me take care of that." Something about the way he said it, quiet but certain, made me feel like I could finally exhale. That night, as I lay in bed, I didn't dream about Heather's birthday. I didn't picture the same humiliating dance I always found myself in. I dreamed about walking in and being seen, not for who they wanted me to be, but for who I actually was. And something in me whispered, "It's time." Invitation came wrapped in faux sincerity, just like Heather always delivered her worst gifts. She texted me 3 days before the event. No preamble, no follow-up to our months of silence. "Heather, hey, brunch this Sunday at Rose and Finch, just girls. Would love to see you there." I stared at it for a full minute. No apology, no acknowledgement of what had happened. Just that familiar, breezy tone she used when she needed something or wanted control of the narrative. I didn't answer right away. I showed it to Matt first. "She wants a photo op," he said flatly. "A forgiveness post before the party." "Should I even go?" I asked, heart in knots. "It feels like a setup." He nodded. "It probably is, but maybe that's okay." I tilted my head. "What do you mean?" "Let her think it's her stage," he said. "You walk in knowing who you are, that's power, that's the beginning." So I RSVP'd with a simple, "See you Sunday." The restaurant was one of those white and wood Instagram spots with lavender lattes and minimalist ceramic plates. Everything was curated for optics, down to the way the sun hit the bar cart just right through the skylight. Heather had chosen well. I arrived 5 minutes early, because old habits die hard, and sat at a corner table facing the door. I wore a soft ivory blouse and my favorite rust-colored trousers. No statement pieces, just quiet elegance. I didn't want to look like I was trying. I just wanted to feel like me. Heather arrived with her entourage of 3 cousins and a college friend I vaguely remembered. She was radiant, of course, dressed in florals, her hair in perfect beachy waves, greeting the hostess like a regular. "Oh my gosh, look who's already here," she said, loud enough to draw attention as she approached our table. "Alicia, you early bird." She air-kissed my cheek and sat directly across from me. Everyone else filled in the gaps. The server brought sparkling waters. Mimosas were ordered. Small talk bubbled. I said little, smiled politely, waited, and then right as the food arrived, it began. "So, Heather," said Cousin Melissa with a sly smile, "we still on for that spa day before the big party?" "Of course," Heather chirped. "Everyone's being so amazing. Honestly, I just feel so loved this year. Way more than I expected, you know." I sipped my coffee. Heather tilted her head at me like a cat playing with a wounded bird. "Even Alicia's coming around, right?" she said sweetly. "I mean, we had a little miscommunication, but I know she didn't mean to sit out of the planning." Everyone froze for a half beat. And then Cousin Riley, always the eager hype girl, said, "Yeah, we were wondering what that was about. It got a little tense." I smiled gently. "Did it, or did no one notice until I stopped saying yes?" Heather blinked. Her smile faltered. "Oh, come on," she said lightly. "It's not that deep. You know how family can be, lots of moving parts. We didn't mean to exclude you." I placed my fork down carefully. "You didn't exclude me, you ignored me. There's a difference." Her friends shifted in their seats. Heather gave a breathy laugh. "Okay, now you're being dramatic." There it was, the word, the one they always pulled out when I didn't let things slide. Dramatic. It was the family's favorite gaslight. Meant to shrink. Meant to hush. I looked at her straight on. "Heather, when no one showed up for my birthday, not a call, not a card, you didn't even text me back when I told you I was hurt." She waved a manicured hand. "Oh, please, we've all had off weeks. You're acting like it was some major betrayal. And then you asked me to contribute $3,000 for your gift," I said calmly, without so much as a happy belated. That silenced the table. Heather's cheeks flushed, but her voice turned sharp and sugary. "Wow, okay. So this is about money. That's what this is." I shook my head. "It's about respect, something I've given over and over and only just realized I haven't received in return." No one moved. No one blinked. Heather looked around for support, but even Riley was now busy fiddling with her straw. "I invited you to brunch to clear the air," she said stiffly. "No," I said. "You invited me here to clear your conscience. That's not the same thing." The server came by and asked if we wanted more drinks. No one answered. Heather leaned back, picking up her mimosa with a trembling hand. "I guess some people just love being the victim." I stood slowly. "And some people love pretending they've done nothing wrong. Enjoy your party." I didn't slam anything. I didn't cry. I just walked out. And as the door shut behind me, the sun caught on the glass and lit the sidewalk like a runway. And for the first time in my life, I didn't shrink when they tried to make me feel small. The next day, I didn't plan to talk about it. I came home from the brunch drained but not devastated, more like someone who finally stepped outside after holding their breath too long. The air was thin but mine. I told Matt everything in clipped sentences over Thai takeout. He didn't interrupt, just handed me a spring roll and muttered, "Heather's got some nerve." We laughed. We actually laughed. That alone felt like a kind of victory. But by the next morning, the backlash began. It started with a phone call from my father, a rarity in itself. He rarely reached out without my mother prompting him, and when he did, it was always about logistics. "Are you bringing dessert to Sunday dinner?" Or "What time's the flight?" Never emotional, never unscripted. But that morning there his name was, Dad home, calling. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hi, Dad." There was a long pause, then, "Hey, kiddo, I just wanted to check in." I braced myself. "About?" I heard there was a scene yesterday at Heather's brunch. A scene. That's what it had become in the retelling. A scene. Not a boundary, not a moment of clarity, just another dramatic mark on Alicia's growing rap sheet. I took a breath. "If by scene you mean I told the truth calmly and left with my dignity intact, then yes." He sighed. That tired, practiced sigh I'd heard 100 times growing up, usually when I'd asked too many questions or pushed just a little too hard for fairness. "I'm not taking sides," he said gently. I smiled bitterly. "I know. That's always been your thing." Another silence, this one heavier. "Alicia, listen," he said. "I know you feel hurt, and you have every right to, but this family, we've always had a certain rhythm, a way of dealing with things." "Yes," I said flatly, by pretending they never happened. "I'm just saying Heather's under a lot of stress with the party. Your mom's been trying to hold things together." "Hold what together, Dad?" I snapped. The illusion, because if that's the case, she's doing a stellar job. He cleared his throat. Look, I'm not calling to argue, I think you could have handled things differently. And I think I've spent 36 years handling things your way. I'm tired. There was a pause on his end. I could almost hear the words he wasn't saying. The instinct to smooth, to pivot, to minimize. That was his role. Always had been. The quiet mediator who never truly stood between, just beside the louder force that was my mother and the golden glow that was Heather. Finally, he said the line that made something in me go still. Let's not ruin the mood, okay? That was it. That was his version of support, a plea to keep the peace at my expense. A quiet offering of neutrality, which in my family always meant complicity. I leaned back into the couch and stared at the ceiling. Dad, do you even know what I said yesterday? He hesitated. Heather said you brought up old stuff, made people uncomfortable. I actually laughed. Uncomfortable. Good. Maybe it's time they felt that for once. I get it, he said quickly. I do, I just think you're better than stooping to that level. Ah, there it was, the myth, the pedestal, I was better than this. So I should stay silent, keep the harmony, keep the image, keep smiling. I'm not stooping, Dad, I said quietly. I'm standing. And if that makes them uncomfortable, maybe that says more about them than it does about me. He didn't answer right away. Then, with a trace of something close to real emotion, he said, I just don't want you to isolate yourself from everyone. I closed my eyes. My voice softened. Dad, I'm not isolating, I'm choosing myself, for once. He didn't respond, I knew he wouldn't, but I also knew somewhere in his silence he understood, even if he couldn't say it. I have to go, I said gently. Tell Mom I said hi. We both knew I didn't mean it. After I hung up, I sat for a while in the stillness of my apartment, listening to the tick of the kitchen clock, feeling the weight of generations on my shoulders. Matt came into the room, eyes searching mine. How'd it go? I shrugged. He doesn't want me to ruin the mood. Matt didn't say anything. He didn't need to. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at myself. Really looked. Still standing, still whole, still me. And next week they would all see that for themselves. The package arrived 2 days before the party. I wasn't expecting anything, certainly not something wrapped in embossed black paper, tied with a silk ribbon and addressed by hand. For a moment I thought it was a mistake, or maybe some last-ditch olive branch from my mother. But the tag simply read, To Alicia, from someone who sees you. I carried it to the dining table where the remnants of my breakfast, cold coffee and an ignored bowl of cereal, still sat untouched. Carefully, I opened the box. Inside lay a dress. Not just a dress, a gown, midnight blue, sleek, effortless. The kind of dress that whispered elegance rather than screamed for attention. It shimmered subtly in the light like confidence personified. Beneath the dress was a smaller box. Inside, a necklace, delicate, gold. A single diamond at the center, quietly brilliant. And then, tucked beneath the satin lining, was a handwritten note in Matt's familiar blocky script. You don't have to say a word, just walk in as yourself. That's enough. You deserve to be seen. I sat back in my chair, the note pressed against my chest, and let out a shaky breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. This wasn't just a gift. It was a declaration. I wasn't going to Heather's party to beg for inclusion. I wasn't going to show them they'd hurt me. I was going to remind myself that they couldn't take away what was mine. My dignity, my presence, my light. Matt came home that evening to find the dress hanging from our bedroom door, the light catching the fabric in soft waves. I hadn't even needed to ask how he knew my size. He just smiled and kissed my forehead. You'll be unforgettable, he said. I don't want to compete with Heather, I replied quietly. You're not, he said. You're redefining the moment. For the next hour, we sat cross-legged on the bed, planning everything down to the earrings I'd pair with the necklace and which heels were powerful but still allowed for graceful exits. He even suggested the music I should listen to while getting ready. It's not just about how you look, he said, brushing hair from my face. It's about how you feel, like you're writing a new chapter, the kind where no one gets to narrate your worth but you. That night, I slept without dreaming. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was bracing for the next blow. I felt like I was rising. The morning of the party, I got up early and did all the ordinary things. Took a walk, made coffee, answered work emails. But everything felt different, like the air around me had shifted. Like I was preparing for something far greater than just a social appearance. I didn't tell my mom I was going. I didn't tell Heather either. Let them think I'd stay home and protest. Let them assume I was licking wounds somewhere in silence. They were wrong. In the afternoon, I laid the dress out on the bed, took a long bath, let my body feel cared for, treated, adored. And when I finally slipped into that midnight blue silk, when I fastened the clasp of the necklace and stood in front of the mirror, I saw something I hadn't in a long time. Power, not loud, not desperate, just present. Matt came into the room and froze. "Wow," he said, breathless. "You like it?" I asked, smoothing the sides. He walked over, hands slipping around my waist. "It's not the dress, Alicia, it's you." For a second, tears threatened, but not from sadness, from awe, at what it felt like to be loved without condition, to be seen, without explanation, to be lifted, not leaned on. As we stepped outside into the night air, I could already feel it, a shift in the story, a turn in the page. This time, I wasn't going to disappear into the backdrop. This time, I was stepping into the room not hoping they'd notice, but knowing they would. The moment I stepped through the entrance of the Elmwood Garden Hall, the chatter dipped just slightly. Not enough to seem obvious, but I noticed. Eyes turned. Glasses paused mid-sip. A few jaws didn't quite close in time. I had expected whispers, maybe polite half-smiles. What I didn't expect was silence stitched with awe. The midnight blue gown shimmered like confidence poured into fabric. The necklace caught the low golden light, framing my collarbone like a quiet challenge. Matt, in his tailored charcoal suit, stood beside me like both armor and anchor. Heather's party was in full swing, rose gold balloons, moody lighting, and a live saxophonist tucked into a corner. Waiters passed hors d'oeuvres on porcelain trays. Everyone looked polished, filtered again. And yet, for the first time, I didn't feel lesser. I felt undeniable. We hadn't even crossed the room when Cousin Riley's gaze snagged on me. She blinked once, then gave a startled little smile like she wasn't quite sure if it was okay to look impressed. I nodded politely and moved on. Heather stood near the cake display, flanked by her usual crowd. Her dress, pale pink and overly beaded, suddenly looked loud in comparison. She turned, expecting someone else, and saw me. There it was, just a flicker, that pause in her eyes. The kind that happens when someone realizes they're not the main character anymore. Her smile stayed glued on, but her eyes didn't know what to do. "Alicia," she said, voice a notch higher than usual, "you came." I smiled gently. "Of course, wouldn't miss it." She looked me up and down, eyes landing on the necklace. "Wow, you look different." "I feel different," I said, then tilted my head. "Maybe I finally found the right lighting." Her smile faltered, just enough for me to catch it before she plastered it back on. People began drifting toward us, curious. My mother approached next, champagne in hand. She gave me a once-over that wasn't entirely disapproving. "Well," she said, "you certainly made an entrance." Matt reached over and gently placed his hand at the small of my back. "She made the room." That line landed like a cymbal crash. A couple of my aunts turned, eyebrows raised. I didn't flinch. In that moment, the balance shifted. It wasn't that I'd won anything. There was no scoreboard, but something unspoken moved through the room like a ripple. I wasn't the afterthought anymore. I wasn't the girl they forgot to call. I was the presence they could no longer ignore. Heather tried to redirect attention, gesturing to the cake. "Let's get photos," she chirped. Everyone group shot, but people lingered around me. Compliments came not just about the dress, but about me. My energy, my grace, my glow. Heather smiled for the cameras, but her laugh sounded thinner than usual. Her husband, Jonah, hovered by the drink table, and his eyes flicked toward my necklace more than once. I didn't seek attention, but I wasn't avoiding it either. For the first time, I let it find me. And just like that, the family that had once seen me as quiet, convenient, disposable, now saw something else entirely. A woman who had stopped asking for a seat and instead redefined the table. It was almost funny how quickly admiration becomes tension when it lands on the wrong person. People couldn't stop talking, and they weren't talking about Heather. Aunt Linda came over first, all pearls and pointed pleasantries. "Alicia, darling, where on earth did you find that dress? It's exquisite." I smiled. "It was a gift." From the corner of my eye, I saw Heather flinch slightly at that word. Gift. Maybe because she was used to being the one showered in them. Or maybe because she knew, instinctively, that mine wasn't just a dress. It was a statement. I wasn't hiding anymore. The shift was subtle but certain. Conversation began orbiting me. Not forced, not faked, just gravitating naturally toward the energy I'd brought in. Even the photographer snapped a few candids of Matt and me by the windows. A cluster of younger cousins complimented my necklace, my posture, my confidence. They didn't say those words exactly, but I heard them anyway. "She looks amazing." She just glows tonight. That's what elegance really looks like. And Heather stood by the cake with a flute of Prosecco and a smile that kept twitching at the edges. Her voice got higher each time someone complimented me. At one point, she turned to my mother and said, loud enough to carry, "I guess some people love a good costume moment." My mother gave a tight chuckle, but her eyes stayed on me. It was strange how I could feel their thoughts before they said a word. Like they were collectively realizing something they hadn't expected. She didn't just show up, she arrived. Heather's husband, Jonah, walked over during dessert. Not to say hello, not even to make small talk, but to comment on the necklace. "That's Cartier, isn't it?" I nodded. "It is." "Bold choice," he said with a half smile. "Elegant." Heather was watching. Her smile froze. It happened then, just a moment, but enough for everyone to feel it. Her glow dimmed. Mine didn't. She looked over the room and realized the center of gravity had shifted. Not because I demanded it, but because I no longer needed anything from them. And that made me dangerous. There's something unsettling about a woman who no longer waits for approval. It terrifies people who only know how to keep others small. Later, as Matt and I prepared to leave, Heather came over for the goodbye hug. "You looked nice tonight," she said, tight-lipped. "Thank you," I replied softly. "You always did know how to throw a beautiful party." She blinked, unsure if it was a compliment or a mirror. Then she leaned in, lowering her voice. "Are you trying to prove something?" I looked at her, calm and clear. "No, Heather, I already did." Matt took my hand. We walked out with heads high and hearts steady. And as the doors closed behind us, I knew they would talk. They would spin it. But deep down, they'd all feel the truth they couldn't unsee. The sister they forgot was unforgettable. Have you ever watched someone realize they no longer had power over you? That moment, it changes everything. If this story moved you, share your own moment below, when you stepped into your worth and never looked back. Thanks for watching. You deserve to be seen, too.